The point is, if Aidan Gallagher competed according to their biological sex, they would not be succeeding. They wouldn't be winning state championships. They would actually not even be qualifying for the finals. That is the point everyone's missing. Is that actually...
Why do you care about
women's integrity, women's sport? No, you're missing Megan Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe is a very, very good football player, but also incredibly irritating. And I noticed that when she retired, it was only then she said that she wanted trans women to be playing in the American women's national team. In other words, when it wasn't possible for that person to take her position. Because here's a scenario for you. Lionel Messi puts his hand up and says, actually, I'm feeling like a woman today. Do you play him in the American women's national team, Francesca? Yes or no?
Lionel Messi had to undergo an incredible...
Yes or no?
He had to undergo an incredible amount of treatment when he was young. He had a bunch of
Would you allow him to put his hand up, say he's a woman, and play in the American women's national team?
He had a growth spurt. I'm a big Messi fan, so... But let me explain this to you.
Answer my question. Would you allow him, if he said, I'm a woman, to play in the American women's national team?
You're using the wrong pronoun.
Yes, right now. Hell yeah, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Messi on the U.S. women's national team? Hell yeah.
Would you allow Usain Bolt to do that and be in the sprinting team?
Yes, because that would mean they're a trans woman. They identify as women.
What's up, my friends? Jason Minnis here. This is a channel that exists to help you guys stand strong in your faith with wise thinking and bold living. So today, I do, as a Christian, want to react to some of these things that are happening. You know, the participation of transgender athletes in sports has garnered significant attention in recent years, and it's reflecting this growing trend of individuals who are seeking to compete in line with their what they refer to as their gender identity. Now, while many view this as a positive step towards inclusivity, so this is a good thing, as a Christian, let's take a look into this space. And let's talk about some of the concerns that people are raising regarding the potential unfairness and the disadvantages and the harm that transgender women are having towards biological women in their sports. Now, just to bring up to speed, this was something that occurred a few months ago, and this is what basically Piers Morgan on a show, they're having this debate, started with this transgender athlete who qualifies for the girls' state championships having a top time in the 200 meter, which if this would apply, this man who thinks he's is a woman, if he was competing as a biological man, which he was born as a man, as a male, he would have been dead last. He goes by the name of Aidan Gallagher in Portland. And take a listen to this report about this incident.
At the Portland Interscholastic League Championships, a trans sophomore runner for McDaniel High School finished first in both the girls' 200 meter and the 400 meter. You can see the athlete.
So just stop right. You can see in the red how that the guy in the front that's thinking he's a woman, he's a sophomore in high school. Look at the distance, and it just gets worse compared to one of the fastest female high schoolers, you know, that track runner right now.
Speeding by their competition here. The athlete, formerly a male, is allowed to compete under the OSAA rules as a girl and will compete this weekend at state. They have the top 200 meter time in the state and the third best time in the 400 meter. Neither time would have made the podium on the boys' side.
So neither time that this right there, and I pause it, Aidan Gallagher, a young boy who thinks he's a girl, is competing as a female. He believes he is a female. So this is what we're talking about, you guys, when it comes to transgender athletes. And so take a listen to how this debate continues to unfold on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
We are conflating various issues here. So let's get back to the actual issue we want to debate, which is the issue of this young sophomore, Aidan Gallagher. I come back to Tommy here. You know, I know this debate always inspires everyone to get very angry, and there's lots of allegations of transphobia and so on. I really think they're missing the central point. There is a reason we separate sexes in sport. And the reason, like I said, when the Olympics are in Paris later this summer, if you allowed women and men to compete in a generalized way, then women would win almost no medals. Literally, other than one or two events, possibly equestrian, possibly archery. There are very few things which, anything that involves power or stamina or speed Or no.
Piers, can I ask you a question really quickly?
Yes.
Because have you ever undergone any kind of like hormone replacement therapy?
Oh,
or
you mean
anything
chopped
like
off his penis? Because
No,
that's
I haven't.
Hang
No.
on, hang on. I'm not talking to you, Esther.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay.
I'm talking to Piers.
Yeah.
Because actually, the body does go.
So here's what's interesting. Let me just pause this because when we reality check this, notice what Francesca, this progressive woman, is saying is, have you gone through any hormone therapy? Assuming she hasn't, more than likely she hasn't, but she becomes the expert. Okay, she cuts people off. She's very defensive about this and making it seem like she's fighting for equality. Okay, and then notice what she says and following.
Undergo an incredible amount of toil.
What it doesn't
when you
do,
actually-
Francesca, I've heard this.
So the other thing is, this is the thing that you guys, we have to say, and I'm saying this as a follower of Jesus Christ, believing that we are made in the image of God. I have 2 sons and I have 2 daughters, okay? They weren't assigned a sex. They were given a sex by God according to the order of his creation, his divine creation. And she's saying the turmoil that these people go through, that they willingly put themselves through, okay? No one's forcing this on them. And this is some of the things we have to talk about, separate from the dignity of women in sports or the integrity of women's sports. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. But I want you to stop and think when this is just coming to this idea where we are allowing even younger students who say they identify as a sex other than what they were born as to go through this treatment that is very, very traumatic to their body and to their psyche. Listen to what she says.
Hang on.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change your body mass.
No,
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does.
No,
it
it doesn't.
absolutely can change your body
No,
mass.
it doesn't.
Absolutely. The
It
amount
doesn't.
of
You
hormones
remain
that
as
can,
muscular.
it
You know how I know
drains-
this? Talk to someone like Caitlyn Jenner,
Piers.
who was, as a man,
Oh my God.
was the decathlon gold medal winner for the United States of America, and was then, when she took up golf, having transitioned, was told she could tee off
Asking Caitlyn
from the
Jenner-
women's tees. Right, the women's tees are 50 yards further ahead than the men's, and she said she was winning every tournament.
Asking Caitlyn Jenner for any advice or practical information is like asking you, Piers, for how to get a 6-pack. Like, what are we doing?
Actually, I've got quite an impressive
Very true.
growing 6-pack, as my Instagram feed
The
will tell
point
you.
is
Let
that
me-
your
let me
body
come to-
undergoes a lot of
Interesting.
changes.
Let me come to
It's actually
Tommy.
incredibly
Piers,
difficult to
I want to point
compete.
this out.
Tommy.
Piers, I want to point this out because your guests here, I mean, talk about the snake eating its own tail. They're sitting there talking about trans rights and affirming transgender ideology, but then they're saying that Caitlyn Jenner, who is probably the most famous trans person, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Because Caitlyn Jenner is not only a Republican, but Caitlyn Jenner also calls out biological men competing in women's sports. So your guests sit here and they
Caitlyn
cry
Jenner.
boo-hoo
Trans
tears
women.
about trans
Trans women,
rights,
please.
but then they dismiss Caitlyn Jenner. It's amazing. These are also the same people who claim to be feminists, but also don't care about actual women being robbed of opportunities.
Yeah.
That's why liberalism is a disease, and you can just let these people talk, and they argue with themselves, Piers.
The point is, if Aidan Gallagher competed according to their biological sex, they would not be succeeding. They wouldn't be winning state championships. They would actually not even be qualifying for the finals. That is the point everyone's missing.
Piers,
is that actually
why do you care about
women's integrity of women's sport?
But you don't. Have you done a segment on Caitlin Clark and pay disparity? Have you done a
See, notice what they do then. That's the other thing is they jump into the disparity issues. But if you look at things, you guys, in terms of the revenue stream of male sports and female sports, you can't have equality in pay when one industry brings way less money. And most of the male sports actually help fund the female sports. So these are the arguments that people throw out there. And again, it loses sight sometimes of the humanity. And this ongoing debate has led to intense discussions, no doubt, like legal battles are taking place, proposed legislation. Right now, as I'm recording this, California just passed, no surprise with this, that they don't have to tell the parents of a child who identifies with a different gender identity than what they were assigned at birth. This, my friends, is getting out of control. And as a father, I'm putting this out. And it's important that we thoroughly examine the facts But the question is, what are the facts? You see the gay guy and this other gal right now, they're constantly saying you're using the wrong pronouns. They're a trans woman, get it right. And they're trying to control the narrative with speech and terminology as though that is the facts. Those are the facts, if you will. And that's really not addressing the issue. Yes, we need to respect the rights of people, but when you start giving special rights to trans athletes, particularly trans women, a transgender person, a man who thinks he's a woman, you guys, there's going to be major, major problems to follow. Now, I wanted to show you guys this other video because one of the things we have to look at when we reality check this stuff to see if it even bears true as a referent to what we know to be real, that corresponds with the facts of reality. There are no trans men or trans women or cisgender men or cisgender women. There are only biological men and biological women. They are male and they are female. Now, this has more to do with undermining the dignity of womanhood than it has to deal with just the integrity of women's sports. Because what's happening is when you're addressing the integrity of women's sports by allowing the terminology and the acceptance and the approval and the validation and the legislation of trans men as though there does exist a branch of people in the population of humanity that can actually be, quote, assigned a certain gender, undermining the term sex, biologically, chromosomally, that speaks to their anatomical build, physiologically, physically. They think by addressing these type of terms and applying a cisgender terminology to men and women, just like they try to do with somebody who's a homosexual male or homosexual female, or they say we're a heterosexual relationship. Guys, that's not terminology the Bible uses. So when we are talking about the dignity of a woman and the dignity of a man, that's so foundational, you guys, to this discussion. But the moment we lose sight of these things, the moment we lose sight of what a man or a woman is and the makeup of humanity and the splendor and beauty of family, this is what happens. So what does it even mean, the integrity of women's sports? Now, remember, Francisco was saying something earlier about hormone therapy. So let's get into that. Let me show you guys this next clip from, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this guy, John Stossel. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff, but I think it's a fascinating discussion that he has. But notice he's going to talk to a scientist who's responding to hormone blockers and what is really taking place, particularly from a biological male standpoint.
Can you come up with anything?
By the way, this is not her. This is some other professor who actually is helping advance transgender rights in sports.
More recent, the idea that trans women are hugely going to outperform cis women does not hold up to the statistics.
So you see, notice I was just telling you guys, so just keep this in mind, you guys, when you want to reality check things in life as a Christian, they want to say trans this and cis this. Almost they're making their own camps within humanity as though it's validation that these are actual real human beings who go from one sex to another or one gender to another.
But the statistics do say
a male could be 40% stronger than a female on his legs.
Biologist Emma Hilton.
Things like shoulder width. Those things don't change when transgender women suppress testosterone. They don't get shorter. They've still got big lungs.
I can train 20 hours a week, but I cannot train to be a man.
You can't fix some of the performance gaps. The performance gap in weightlifting is over 30%. The performance gap when someone is throwing a baseball is over 50%. And the performance gap when a male punches is 160%.
Did you see that? That's the other thing, you guys, that we have to talk about is not only when people are, especially the younger they are, when they're given these hormone blockers or this type of therapy that's damaging to a biological young girl or a biological male. And in some cases, we're seeing what some of these girls are going through with these hysterectomies. It's guys, it's grotesque. It's demonic. And so another case that needs to be made against allowing trans men and trans women in sports, whether it be a man thinking he's a woman or a woman thinking she's a man, to compete in a sport, or in this case, women's sports, right? Because this is the biggest, where these guys who think they're women, they go and compete in women's sports. The thing you have to understand is that, yes, it is that they are inherently more advanced physically. There is a huge advantage over women due to their exposure to testosterone during their puberty years. Now, testosterone, again, it's a hormone that impacts muscle mass, bone density, the hemoglobin levels, among other factors that can affect athletic performance. And so critics argue that even after undergoing hormone therapy, they say that trans women may retain these benefits, creating an uneven playing field in certain sports. You just saw what the biologist was saying. Yes, there may be some density to some level, okay? There may be some diminishing in their ability and their accomplishments that they were once able to do before the hormone therapy, you guys, but study after study is still showing, even a year and years later, we are seeing that bone density may change slightly, but it's still going to be far more significant. Lung capacity, you saw the power of throwing a football, a baseball, punching, kicking. You still have these abilities with these men who think they're women, even if they're taking hormone blockers. So this is not a solution. It's not. There might be slight physical reductions after taking hormone blockers, but the physiological benefits still remain with men who identify as women. And this leads to my last and final thing that we have to have a discussion about, and it has to deal with the safety of women. The safety of women. That is so important here, to protect women's rights, to protect women who are competing as a biological female with other biological females who've accomplished a certain status in whatever profession, whatever field or court that they play in. Let them be safe. Trans women athletes, they reduce the opportunities for actual women to compete with other women. They actually prevent and strip them from the opportunity to actually break records, to make a living, to pursue their dreams equally. And yet, because of equity, it prevents them from doing that. So the last thing that I want to share you guys in closing, and we have to understand what the Bible teaches, and this is in Proverbs 11, verse 1. It says, "Dishonest scales are detestable to the Lord, but an accurate weight is his delight." And so, my friends, think about that. When you're being dishonest about who you are, it will not only have consequences on you and the people around you, but that person is going to be accountable to the Lord. And the Bible says that it is a fearful thing to stand in front of a God, of an all-consuming God. And so when we are having this discussion, this is not hate speech. This is not being transphobic or anything like that. This is actually speaking the truth in love and addressing things that we have to be talking about. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, like this video. Make sure you guys subscribe if you have not done so already, and check out our website, standstrongministries.org, to get other strong, biblically strong and effective material to help you guys continue to walk boldly in your faith. Until next time, keep standing strong in your faith.